All right, how's it going there, folks? Welcome back here to a Saturday update. It is the Earthmaster out here, March 30th, 2024, about 11:30 a.m. here, California time. A few days off here from the eclipse coming up on Monday, the 8th of April, so just over a week or so now. We'll check out the cloud cover forecast here towards the end of this update. Right now, latest activity on the globe shows a 1.9 earthquake into the Alaska area. We did see a little bit of larger movement here just a short time ago up here across the Aleutian Trench. Pretty far across the Aleutian Trench here, a distance from any populated regions here of Alaska. Very typical to see earthquake activity up here in this region, a 5.8, 116 kilometers deep into the subduction zone here of the Aleutian Trench. Now, this area can see definitely some large earthquakes. A quick look here at the historical model shows the history of earthquakes out here since about 1900 or so up to about 2015. So this area gets some deep earthquakes here in the gray colored circles there, depths ranging from about 70 to 300 kilometers. And of course, further upstream, you get these larger events that take place there across the subduction zone interface there between the two plates. But a little bit of movement up there today. So far, that looks like that's going to be the largest earthquake in the last 24 hours. We did see a little bit of movement following that 5.8 in Alaska down south here across the plate boundary, making some subsequent adjustment there, but much further south. You got to think of these plates here, and basically they're floating on a liquid lava or liquid sea of molten rock. When you adjust one area of the plate boundary, no doubt that affects the other areas thousands of miles away, and it can affect, all of the plates at the same time here. It's just like a jigsaw puzzle. But for now, 5.3 occurring following that 5.8 into the Tonga area where we did see, looks like we did see another earthquake here. Okay, so that's going to be the 5.1, and then immediately following that earthquake in Alaska was the 5.3. The recent one right now, a 5.1. So either way, definitely some adjustment taking place here across the area, specifically in this region of Tonga. Very shallow earthquake activity happening there today, so we'll continue to watch that region. We have been seeing quite a bit of deeper scale movement quakes into the subduction zone area. Look at that, almost 600 kilometers deep for that 4.4. Continue to watch areas upstream here for some further adjustment. Looking down south here across the New Zealand area, looks like a 3.2 coming in earlier this morning. Still seeing some deeper activity there across the area of North Island. Let's go check that out real quick from the GeoNet servers and double check this microphone, make sure everything is working here. It looks like it is, hopefully. All right, all magnitudes need to be pulled up here. That was a deleted event for a 2.1. A couple smaller quakes out here, 2.8 South Island, New Zealand area about an hour or so ago. There's another deep quake underneath the North Island, 99 kilometers deep. This area has no doubt been getting quite a bit of deeper activity here recently. This is further up along the Kermadec Trench for that 4.1. And it looks a little bit less active today as it has in the last couple weeks in terms of the deeper movement quakes that are taking place down there across the North Island. But we'll still continue to watch that. It really hasn't made any larger adjustment here following all those deeper quakes recently. Clustering going on here across the Philippines into the Molucca Sea area and the Indonesia Islands region. Very typical. That is the crunch zone, so to speak, where things tend to just, they crunch together in terms of plate dynamics out here. This is the region where most of the plates here come together and create a storm of earthquake activity. That's why it's always so much more active out here across the areas of the western Pacific plate and adjacent plates here compared to other areas across the eastern region of the Pacific plate. The North American plate here and the Pacific plate are not arrow to arrow like you would see over here across the Eurasia and the Pacific plate boundary, but more so kind of sliding up against each other slowly. And that's why we don't see too much earthquake activity out here compared to over here. Imagine if we started seeing 5s and 6s over here across California every day. That'd be a little odd, but there's a reason behind that. The reason why we don't see that is because it's not in a crunch zone. Obviously, still getting plate dynamics here, stress build up over time, but not quite as fast and as active as what we see over here. All these arrows pointing towards one region. That's going to be over here across this area. Eurasia plate, the Pacific plate, North American plate, all putting the crunch, so to speak, out here across the Kurokama-Chaka, Japan Trench. And, the map pretty much speaks for itself in terms of GPS movement and the general direction of the plates. Speaking of the Kurokama-Chaka, pretty quiet up there for now. They did have a little earthquake 3.9 earlier this morning, it looks like. Japan seeing a 4.1. We'll continue to watch the Kurokama-Chaka. I think it does have some potential for some larger scale movement. The rest of the plate boundary here going across the Himalayas, India area, pretty quiet. Some movement stirring up here into, well, let's see where that's at specifically. We'll open up the EMSC model here and look at the world earthquake map. These guys tend to show a little bit more what's going on in terms of the smaller magnitudes. It does look like we got some activity stirring up out in eastern Turkey today. I know that's a little bit larger than a one-pointer. But I'm not a big fan of their updated stuff here. You click on it, right, and it shows 1.2, but it shouldn't be like that. I'm trying to get this bigger one, 4.8. Pretty decent size earthquake out there, but Turkey area and regions out here are almost always seeing earthquake activity as well along that plate boundary. And that's what we're seeing right there. A couple 4s and some smaller quakes there listed on the EMSC map. Across the rest of the Mediterranean region, 2s and 2s. 2s and 2s. It looks like that's the magic number out there. A couple smaller quakes out here across the Azores. Iceland up there looks pretty quiet. But let's just double check. I think we're coming into 2 weeks now of the ongoing eruption there at Iceland. Crazy. But I think things are going to get a little bit more active here. We'll check this out here in a second. There's at least one active vent continuing to free flow magma from below up to the surface for the lava view right now, the lava fountaining. This is from live from Iceland.is. Here's a broader view. Let's see what we got here. It does look a little bit less active. I've seen a little bit of fountaining going on here, but it does look like things are slowing down in terms of the eruption, but this is still very active with one decent fountaining going on there across the main crater. Far as earthquake activity goes, now it looks a little bit quieter here today, but we have seen some swarming going on across other rift zone areas out here recently, and more so over around this region where they're having a little specific swarming going on here across this rift zone. There's always, magma and whatnot underneath these rift zones that are kind of trying to eventually work their way to the surface. So we got to have to watch these areas here where they're swarming, where we're seeing increasing activity, because this region here is away from the Grindavik area, away from that magma intrusion region that we've been watching here over the last few months in terms of the eruption activity here. But Iceland, it looks a lot more active than it has been recently. Also some activity further up north as well. So, things could get further active across certain regions here in terms of elevated volcanic activity. A lot of green statuses out here in terms of volcanoes right now, but again, that could always change. I look at the GPS stations here across the Grindavik area right here. Still shows, and that's going to be the position right here of the seismograph station. Let's pull this up and see what we got. So there is, this is current, almost up to, well, this doesn't look current. March 22nd, 29th, it should be right about here. So what's going on with this one? Is this one offline? Yeah, it doesn't look like the last few days have been updated there. So we'll have to check back on that, because that plays a valuable part in figuring out what's going on below this area in terms of if we're getting inflation across this area, or if we're, putting an end to the eruption in general. We just don't know unless you look at this GPS information. It looks like it's offline for now, but we'll check that out here a little bit later. The Svartsengi area, in terms of the magma reservoir, pretty consistent here since the eruption began here 2 weeks ago. And it is somewhat inflating, but since about this area right here, notice that dot, we've seen it deflate a little bit. So things, right now we're still free flowing from the deeper regions below the surface to the surface, where we're seeing the ongoing activity there in the webcams. And it's slowing down. So that means that we're definitely, what's a word I can think of here? Well, it's not recharging as fast. We're getting the further output of magma more so than the input of magma from below. So we'll have to watch that. I mean, if we get a blockage going on or some type of sealing section down below, then this thing could go back up in terms of inflation. But right now, it's with the continued free flow, even at lower levels, we're seeing the inflation pretty much leveling off. But it's a very interesting eruption compared to the last three, how we had seen, a day and a half of eruption, and then that stopped altogether. This went up off the chart. Here's the last eruption there back in early February. Notice that it dropped off, right? But then immediately started to recharge up to where we are at our most recent eruption here. It took about 30 days or so, a little bit longer this time. But this is a lot different, this current ongoing eruption. We're noticing free flow from the areas below up to the surface. And as long as there's continued activity below, recharging, we'll continue to see that. But things are slowing down right now. So the key, I think, to watch is some earthquake activity. As I mentioned, there's definitely some smaller activity going on here across various rift zones of Iceland. But we'll watch that. There was a lot of magma that had depleted the area below the region here. But I don't think it's over yet. We'll continue to watch the Iceland area pretty closely and report back on any changes or updates there. All right, let's see what else we got. As far as the states go, did see a little bit of activity up here in Ohio near the Maple Ridge, Ohio area. 3.0. Been a while since I've been out there in Ohio. I actually went to school out there, a couple grades. My parents like to travel a lot, so I was out there around the Columbus area in school. I kind of miss the bigger cities in a way as a kid, but not as an adult. A lot different when you're a kid out there to see all the busyness going on. But as an adult, I prefer the countryside a little bit more. All right, so got that little earthquake up there. Kind of an odd one, right? 3-pointer, very shallow. Quakes like this could be felt pretty far. It did look like a few folks reported feeling it. But again, this was super early in the morning. Most people were probably sleeping. That was about 1:42 my time, so still fairly early in the morning. I don't think, Saturday morning most people want to sleep in after working all week. A little bit of movement out in Texas and Oklahoma, up into the Intermountain West region. A handful of smaller quakes, really nothing of concern. Looks like the largest one, a 2.7 up here near Augusta, Montana. They did see, looks like another earthquake there just prior to that last night. I'm trying to think which fault systems those are on. It does look like it's around the Lewis Range. Numerous fault systems up here, but they're just not listed on the map. Aside from that, no major movement going on up there across the area of Montana. A quick glance here at Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. Shows a whole lot of nothingness, really. There is the 5.8 that occurred up along the Aleutian Trench Yes, that did show up quite nicely across a couple different seismograph stations there, and that's good. This When this happens here, it lets me know that these seismograph stations are working properly. They're picking up even distant earthquake signatures, and when they're like that, it's not toned down like say Mirror Lake. What is this, Mirror Lake Plateau area? Look at that, not picking up anything. So I'm not for sure why they have some of these seismograph stations so squashed down in terms of picking up any data, but quite a few stations over here are like that. That's why I like to see these in operation here with signatures such as that, as distant earthquakes. I can see the smaller quakes that take place out here. But speaking of smaller quakes, there's not a lot. There's almost on any given day here at Yellowstone National Park, you can see small microquake activity on any of these stations, but there's no swarms, no major movement going on here. It's been a while since we've had a big-time earthquake swarm that lasted, for weeks on end. But it happens on occasion here. Definitely happens on occasion. Checking out the GPS statements out here, GPS stations around Yellowstone. I think we're still continuing to deflate in terms of the activity out here. Let's see, this is outside Yellowstone Lake. This station goes to about 2024, so this is fairly accurate. Back in 2008, 2009, notice this, we were going up in terms of inflation. That created a little bit of spark and concern that the Yellowstone supervolcano was going to blow. In fact, a lot of people were fear-mongering this. A couple of people got in trouble for trying to evacuate an area. Caused a lot of panic throughout Montana and the Yellowstone area there in Wyoming. But yeah, I think if this thing was going to blow, we would see this thing continue to go up and up and up, not just 40 or 80 mm. That's actually a very minimal amount. But if you look since about 2008, 2009, we've gone down, a little bit of uptick here, but continue to flow downward, and even more so here in the last couple months. See that? All these measurements right here in the little pink dots pointing down on the graph. So we are in deflation mode there at Yellowstone National Park. Southern California, got one earthquake here just off the San Andreas Fault, the southern segment, about 15 kilometers deep. Nothing major going on here, folks. This is a typical day, it looks like, here in California. If we bring up the 2.5 map and above, looks like we did have a couple after midnight. 2.6 down along the creeping segment of the San Andreas Fault, which is very common. 2.5 outside the Petrolia area. That's along the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone, about 14 kilometers deep. And then a 2.6 near the geysers. Surprisingly, there is no geyser activity out here. They just call it the geyser activity. And what's going on out here is some hydrothermal plants, lots of them, taking advantage of the heated surface below to create power. There's one of them out here, and there's many of them. I was down here a couple years ago checking it out, and it's an interesting process that they use to create energy, but also at the same time it creates these earthquakes. All right, backing out of here, see what else we got. Southern California, again, it looks typical out here. Really nothing major going on. Up into the Canada area, I got to add Canada back into my daily updates. I do have quite a few folks up there wanting to know what's going on up in Canada. This is one of the earthquake maps there you can use for the Canada quakes. Let's bring up the plate boundaries here. Doesn't look like a whole lot going on. These are some older quakes there in the yellow circles over here across the northern edge of the Cascadia subduction zone. Over the past month, a few earthquakes, but doesn't look like too much stirring up here over the last week or even the last day. The latest quake shows a little 2.2 in the BC region there of Canada. Aside from that, just not a whole lot of activity stirring up here across the North American plate for now. Let's see, South America region, 2.6 coming in the red flag. We have been getting a lot of activity out here. Well, this isn't really a lot, but a little uptick here in the last 24 hours across the East Pacific Rise. This is a fracture zone, a couple divergent, and then some slip strike faults up here in this fracture area. Most of the time when stuff like this happens, we see an increase in activity across the South America region. This is separation of the sea plates, of the plates underneath the sea here, oceanic crust. There we go. That's where these arrows are spreading apart. So generally, we can expect an increase in movement across the South America area. This is a very small plate, the Nazca plate, easier to probably push around than the Pacific plate. So we expect things to maybe kick up here across the South America region. And like I say, there was a 2.7, a couple other earthquakes coming in here following this event earlier this morning. So we'll continue to watch South America region for some uptick. What was that, 5.8? All right, so let's see what else we got here for space weather activity. I know we're still looking at some elevated flare threats out here. Still seeing a 25% chance for an X flare. That is because 3615 is still somewhat visible out here on the Earth-facing side of the sun. Later tonight, this probably should be out of here. I was expecting it to be off the chart, out of sight, out of mind this morning, but it wasn't. So we'll continue to watch that maybe for some X flare probability. Anything that does blast off from here in terms of CME activity will most certainly be directed away from Earth. And we are left with a lot of scattered, disorganized, very stable sunspots. And there's really not a lot. If you look at the visible disk here, these are all older, decayed ones that are just diminishing throughout time. But a visible look here, not a whole lot here. As far as the far side of the sun, let's see, this was put out a couple days ago, but let me see if they've updated it. We're still live. Oh, no. Uh-oh. That's not good. Are we coming back? Are we coming back? Hello? Well, that's kind of weird. Hopefully this is going to let me record here. Are we back? Are we back? Hopefully. You guys seen that, right? Look at that. I lost my KBs for a minute. Like literally, like I was under an old style DOS attack. You know, where I don't want to go into it, but it almost looks like that's what was going on there. I had no available upload, no download. I think someone was trying to put a little hack on me there while I'm doing an update. I don't know how long it was offline, but I've been checking these graphs here. So when the internet stops working, I go over here and immediately check my KBs, and that was at 0. It does look like we're still online. But, yeah, that's crazy. You guys seen that, right? Yeah, someone's trying to shut me down there. That's a little odd. And it seems to happen a lot either when I'm sleeping early in the morning or when I'm doing an update. I hope it's not any of these sites out here that I'm visiting, because I do support them. And I don't know. It's just awfully weird. All right, looking at the far side, it could be any of them. Look how many windows I have open up here. So when you have all these windows open, it's probably not a good idea. I need to close these more often. You're leaving an open port to your computer, from your computer to this website. You know, say if someone has bad intentions on the other side, well, you know, you got that port open, and that's not good. So I need to close these out more often. I got to remind myself to, because that is not cool. All right, looking at the far side now of the sun, we're fairly stable, it looks like. A couple sunspots coming around the eastern limb, it looks like. Really nothing of impressive activity. Maybe this one right here. You can see it split, but that's going to be the same sunspot right there and right here. So we'll watch that in a week or so. That may be heading further to the eastern limb. Well, it is headed towards the eastern limb, but I don't know how large it's going to be by the time it gets here. One should be peeking around the eastern limb here in a little bit. We'll watch. These are all older sunspots that had been around the sun already visited us. All right, someone's putting a spell on me here. Internet and my vocals here and my communication. All right, let's talk about weather real quick here before I get kicked off again. Severe weather potential out here Monday. Big time severe weather threat. This is something to pay attention to here because we're looking at maybe some highly populated regions out here seeing some tornado risk. It'll be updated, I believe, tonight in terms of what we can expect. They are saying right now all hazards are possible, including the large hail, wind damage, and tornadoes. There is a hatched area out here, mainly around eastern Oklahoma and the southeastern Kansas here. So just a heads up for some severe weather. Looks like day 2, or the next day here, which is going to be, what are we doing here? That's day 4, day 5. Oh, there we go. I need to go back here. That's day 3. That's Monday. And then on Tuesday, where's day 3 at? Wait, is that day 3? Oh, goodness. It's just kind of crazy right now. Day 3. Okay. All right. Well, day 4 looks like that weather has shifted way further east out here. It was looking a little bit more promising in terms of severe weather a little bit further westward, but it looks like this system's really going to scoot by on day 4, which is going to be Tuesday. But either way, we'll cover Monday a little bit later on when we have more specifics about it. All right, cloud cover. Let's make sure we got the latest updated information here. This is it for cloud cover. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make sure we got it. We're looking for the April 8th time period and about the time the eclipse starts right here. Look at this. This is updated today. Most recent model, double checking. It's reverted back to how it was in the past couple runs here with consistent cloud cover from that subtropical jet that's coming in. You can pretty much see it right here. That's a subtropical jet. A lot of clouds associated with it. A lot of storminess going to be kicking up as well. Tornado potential out here around the 8th and 9th time period as well. Right now, that's 18Z. That's going to be right around. That's going to be about the time here of the totality. And as you can see, blue here on this model is indicative of cloud cover, and that shows 100% cloud cover here over the majority of Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, Arkansas. Looks like maybe some clarity as you head up into Illinois, Ohio. That's a small window of opportunity right here, and that's not looking good. It's trending cloud cover. It's been consistent here. The last model run last night looks like this was put back a little bit, but it still showed a massive surge of some subtropical moisture coming up here into Texas and into the totality line, which is right here in the red dot, or the red line here with dashes on it. So we'll continue to check that, folks. Each day we're getting closer. Each run's getting more accurate. For, I think, 100% certainty, or very close to 100% certainty, we'll check it out on Friday. We'll continue to check this, but I think on next Friday here, we'll be down to about 99% certainty to where all this cloud cover is going to be and which regions will be open here in terms of the viewability. So that's that, unfortunately. Numerical models here. Here's California storm coming in. Actually, it's heading down south now. I think we're done with the rain here in Northern California. A few more showers throughout the day. That's going to scoot off and interact and produce severe weather here on Monday and into Tuesday as well. It looks like this could go overnight, Monday night into Tuesday for the severe weather threat. So just a heads up. Another storm system coming in across the west coast as we head into Friday. that could be the player for the event there on Monday. Well, actually, it looks like there's a system that rolls through Saturday night into Sunday just before the eclipse there in Texas. The day of the eclipse, again, there's going to be a lot of moisture out here across this area, and this is showing more rain compared to other weather models that we had looked at. So rain, clouds, not a good, not good for viewability in terms of seeing the total eclipse there, solar total eclipse that I really wanted to see. But I'm not going to drive up to Ohio to view it. It just looks like an active pattern out here for spring. With each storm system coming in across the West Coast, kicks up severe weather out here in the Southern Plains, and it looks like things are going to get pretty active here as we head into middle of April. Unfortunately, not the best news for the total eclipse, but we'll continue to check that on each update. All right, folks, double check, make sure I'm still live. I'm glad you guys seen that. Hopefully it recorded it. For the live streamers, you probably got some buffering going on, or maybe it jumped from me talking about the sun to weather. I don't know. But there was about a minute here, maybe not quite a minute, about 30 seconds or so of no internet activity, which is odd. It's normally a blockage of my packets being sent out. So someone was not happy. Someone's not happy with me chatting on the microphone. I don't understand why, but hey, some people are like that, I guess. All right, I'm going to jump off here, folks, and enjoy the rest of the Saturday here. Seismograph stations on the chart look pretty quiet for now. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on tonight for the Saturday night update. Take care, folks, and stay safe out there.